Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Relationship Master Series Principles to a Passionate Life and Relationships and Dynamite Families. I'm Alan Darbonne, and I'll be your host. And I've gathered 25 plus wonderful experts from literally all over the world. And they're going to share their experience and their expertise and give you some real boots on the ground tips about what you can do in terms of relationships and creating dynamite relationships and dynamite families. And I am very happy today. One of our experts is Emma Viglucci. And Emma Viglucci is an LMFT, and she's actually been in the field of relationship and mental health work for over 20 years now. And she's the founder and director of metrorelationship.com. That's a practice that specializes in working with busy couples and intimate partners who are struggling to get on the same page and feeling connected. They help couples create a radiant and authentic relationship and meaningful life by becoming strong partners, increasing their connection, their intimacy, and their fun. Very important element. She is the creator of Metro Relationship Philosophy and the Successful Couple Strategy. And I'm looking very forward to getting into the details of that. And first, I really want to welcome you, Emma. Thank you so much for being part of this program. And thank you for the work that you're doing out there.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And I think there's a little bit of a delay. So if it sounds funny, I guess we'll regroup. But thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this. I really appreciate it.
I'm very happy to have you here. And I want to mention to the audience that stay tuned to the very end of the program because Emma has agreed to give you a free gift, a wonderful gift. And I'm going to tell you at the very end of the interview exactly where the link is. It'll appear then and how to have access to that free gift. So I'd like to start, Emma, by just asking you if you'd share with us how you got into this whole relationship field.
Well, so I don't have a story to share. The short of it is that I've always found people in couples so very interesting, and families. I was always curious about how people operate and how come some families are awesome and some families struggle, and how come some relationships work and some relationships don't, and how come some people are successful and some people aren't. And so that curiosity led me to specific schooling, which led then to a private practice in marriage and family therapy with a specialty in working with couples. Because as you potentially agree, couples are the foundation of the family, and the parenting and the partnership that they creates the children of our future. And therefore, I made it my life's work to work with couples so that they could create amazing homes for their children and, of course, have an amazing life for themselves together and alone.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'm really glad that you're doing this work. The planet sure needs it, and so I'm delighted that you're doing this up in the New York City area. And so, along these lines, in general, how does a couple become a strong partnership and create a successful relationship?
So there's a few things that couples need to create a relationship that works for both, right? And there are some elements that in general are needed for the partners to work well together. And throughout my work with different kinds of couples, types of couples and different kinds of people, I've narrowed it down to 5 elements that are needed within the partnership for the relationship to feel successful and to feel strong. And those 5 elements are driven from my philosophy that the relationship is a playground for the partners where they get to experiment and play and find out more about themselves and learn more about themselves and learn how to do themselves better, show up better, and in that meet each other's needs and create something that works beautiful for themselves and together. And the partner is usually a mirror for ourselves, where parts of ourselves get reflected, and then in that reflection we get to see if we like what we see or not, and that's how we get to adjust and course correct and grow and stretch and become better individuals, and in turn also a better partner. So from that philosophy then flows how do we grow ourselves up, and how do we get our needs met, and how do we meet each other's needs. And from that flows the 5 elements that I created for the successful couple strategy.
Uh-huh. Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah. And I love your playground
It's
concept.
so fun. People relate to that very well, because most partners find what they do is that they blame each other when the relationship doesn't work, when they're not feeling happy. Right? It's very easy to point the finger at the other and say, you suck because of this, or you're not good because of that, or I don't like this about you, and therefore that's why I don't feel well. It's very easy to blame other people for what doesn't work in our own life or for our feelings.
Right.
So the playground metaphor is really good because it allows people to show up better themselves and to own themselves, right? As opposed to blaming the other.
Right. And a beautiful thing about that too is that with anyone who's been on the playground with your kids or your grandkids or witnessed other kids on the playground, is there moments of glee and delight and swinging and yaying, and then there are other moments when oh my gosh, somebody got hurt or somebody got out of turn, and then the blaming starts, and so you see all those elements.
Play well together, right? Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's a beautiful frame.
Thank
you. Tell me, what are these 5 elements? I'm very curious.
Sure. So the first element I call context and mindset, because what happens is that a lot of people come in with this blame mentality, right? They come in with things are not working because you're doing these things.
Right.
And so that's the context, and that's where I give them the philosophy, and that's where we explain that the mindset of working against each other, or that you are the enemy and you're doing something wrong by me, doesn't serve anybody. So the shift happens in that the partners learn to become allies, right? So we're in this playground to work, to play together, not to beat each other up. What's the point? It's not going to be any fun for anybody.
Right.
So that's the mindset shift, where they get to own that we're allies. We happen to be bothering each other right now, but so how do we learn to share and to play well together? And in that different mindset, going from an ego place to a heart-centered place, operating from that more loving and accepting and nurturing place, serves everybody much better. And from there, they could build something stronger. So that's the element 1. So we work on limiting beliefs. We work on anything that holds people back from looking at things cleanly, right? Because all that you're an enemy and you're not doing well by me is dirty thinking. And so we clean all that stuff up. So that's element 1. Element 2 has to do with communication and alignment. And so in communication, we help couples get on the same page. If people don't know how to communicate and how to carry themselves properly, what happens is that then the miscommunication happens, misinterpretations happen, all this funky stuff happens. And from that place, they can line up and get on the same page, and then they just go in different ways, and it creates more noise, more problems, more situations that don't work for them.
Right.
So in that alignment, we put a lot of different things in place where the communication is there, the showing up properly is there, the timing of communication, problem solving, conflict resolution, all kinds of things, so that they could talk well, communicate well, and resolve things well. Mm-hmm. And also with element 1 and 2 in that piece comes the boundary setting and the ownership piece, where I show up properly. I worry about what I contribute, not what you're contributing, right? So it's always about what I could do better and how I could show up better. That's hugely important. So those 2 pieces play strong. The boundaries play a huge role in both of those and the rest of the elements, really. But that's what we teach the boundaries really in the first element, and it plays out really, really thoroughly when we do the communication piece.
Right.
Does that make sense so far?
That sure does make sense.
Yeah. So then in element 3, we have I call clarity and dynamics, and that's when couples and partners get to learn more about what is driving the things that bothers them. So if the dishes are not done, it's not that necessarily that the dishes are not done that's bothering me. I mean, that might bother me too, but why do I have such a strong reaction to the dishes not being done? It's more because I ask, 100 million times for the dishes to get done, and they're still not done. So it's the piece about not feeling heard that's really getting triggered, or something, whatever's going on for that particular person. So we go to the root of like the little things that annoy us, and if they're little things that bother us, why do they bother us? What are the drivers? And there are usually themes, and people have the specific themes and scripts that are being played out over and over and over. So the couples get to identify what are the drivers for them, for each partner. And when you do your regular thing, triggers this for me, and it brings me back with all my baggage comes up. And when you respond a certain way, then all this stuff comes up for me, and that's the relationship. It's all the defense mechanisms and all the nonsense that they're carrying from before that's interacting. And so when we shed light on that and we clear that up, everybody knows, okay, so when I could tweak how I do this piece, so I don't have to necessarily go against myself, right? But I could do me differently with this particular piece so it doesn't bother you, and vice versa. And then we clean all that. We break those dynamics and we create a new dynamic. So that's what element 3 is all about, just figuring out what the drivers are, what's underneath that's tripping people up, and that keeps them replicating patterns and dynamics that don't serve them, and how to change them so they could grow up, stretch, change, get their needs met for themselves and for each other.
Right. Very important element, because having that sense of what's underlying this this big blow up that I have about something, and once you get a handle on that kind of thing, and you also know your partner's going through the same kind of thing, makes a huge context difference.
Yeah, it's really interesting to watch this, to hear the stories of partners, the things that trip them up. It's usually very insignificant behaviors that there's reactivity around it, and then the way that they address it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and they all of a sudden they're in this huge fight over something so little. Usually, sometimes there's big stuff too, right? But generally, when people get tripped up, so what we want to do is like, okay, so why is that so big for you? So what's going on, and changing that is huge.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and with that, what we'll put in place is ways of addressing the needs that are underlying the dynamic. So the unresolved needs that are not met from before, and we create a system for that. So then it becomes very easy for each other to meet each other's needs and to meet our own needs in a way that doesn't put anybody out. It's not major work. It's very simple, and yet with taking care of the practical, the basic, the in-your-face pieces, and also the underlying stuff. So very nice to work with that.
Right.
Element 4 is connection and intimacy, huge piece for couples, right? So when couples first come to us, they complain usually about communication and connection and intimacy. Those are the reasons why usually people seek our help. Right. And the other elements just are put in place to support getting those pieces done well. And so that's what element 4 is. How do we build that more deeper connection, sustained connection, deeper intimacy, higher passion, more fun? And so we help remove roadblocks to those elements, to those pieces, and put things in place so that they can have more fun with each other, more connection, just really enjoy each other more, and not be so mechanical about life, or so however I place that sometimes.
Right.
So that's the element 4. Element 5 has to do with creating collaboration and a strong partnership. And so, what I teach my couples is that it's not easy to create a strong partnership where you're melding everything, 2 people, into like one unit. Just running the whole business of running a joint life together is not easy, and with all the demands and things that we have nowadays in life. And so we create a lot of different things that serves people specifically to their lifestyle and their situation, so that they could work well together and create routines and systems and structures within their house, so that they're running the joint life together, the business of running a joint life together is much easier, and the co-parenting is much easier, and getting on the same page around those things is much easier, and so that they could be an inspiration to others, right? The strong partnership and the role modeling of working well together is actually beautiful for others to see and to inspire as well. So that's the 5th element.
Well, that's a wonderful sequence, and I get a sense about why one would be done before the other, how they build on each other, and so that's very supportive. I know for the people that you work with to uh, have the next piece make sense because you just discovered something about that previous very important piece.
Yep.
And I'm hearing in this, I mean, something in terms of partners, the importance of partners really becoming experts on each other, which to me has a very positive meaning in the sense of uh, knowing your partner. Like if you want to become an expert on anything, you really want to know the details and the depth, and so the same thing if you can approach your partner in that way to understand these dynamics that you've been talking about, uh, it it's in itself a very different mindset, and it also allows you to be in a position. I mean, first, becoming an expert on yourself, which is very essential, and then beyond that, continuing to grow as an expert with each other, so you can have that sensitivity.
Absolutely. And it's not, sometimes, I mean, we think that we know all this stuff about ourselves, but we don't know certain aspects unless they get brought out in relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they, in some aspects, get brought up in the most intimate of relationships. They don't just get brought up in all relationships. So
Right.
some people say, well, I don't have this problem with anybody else, but with him or with her. Well, that's because that's your most intimate relationship, and that's where that stuff is going to come out.
Right.
And that's how we learn the most of ourselves, and that's why I call it a playground, because that's you get to see all the different things, and you get to play with all of it, you know.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, and that's great. And we said we're all uh, that primitive brain of ours really moves us very quickly when our partner says something about oh, that look or that tone of voice or whatever, to
Oh yeah.
jump into what look, I didn't do that. And it's a big step to become a partner where when you hear the person that actually is your mirror out there saying something, instead of the first response being, no, not me, let the first response be, hmm, maybe so. I need to look at that.
Yes.
And then the the nuances of how much me and not me can come in, but at least there's some ownership with that.
Absolutely. I mean, I love how you said the last piece, because absolutely right. A lot of times we project stuff onto each other, right?
Right.
And we use our own lens to see our partner. So there's so much stuff that's happening. But definitely, if something's coming up from my partner's reacting a certain way to me, there's a reason for that. And it's like, okay, so what did I contribute to that reaction? A lot of it is their stuff, but I did contribute some. And what is mine, and what can I do about that, right?
Right. Right. Now, along those lines, I'd like to take some time to delve a little more deeply. I really appreciated how you succinctly um, covered each of these five elements. Could you say a little bit more about the mindset aspect, because that's so crucial, and I love that you put that right at the beginning.
Yeah. Well, so like I was saying before, what happens is that a lot of people come in with blaming their partner. It's very, very easy to say things are happening because of what somebody else is doing. And I'm not happy because of certain conditions that are not met. And what happens is that people don't realize that happiness is a choice, and that you don't need all these different things to be put in place for you to be happy, right? That you could choose at this particular instant to be happy.
Right.
And that love, usually with the way that we look at love, is conditional. I love you if all these things happen, or I feel love for you if these things happen, and I'm happy if these things happen, or if I get this, or if I get that. And we do life very funny in regards to that in our relationship. Sorry. And so that's the first thing that we teach in terms of mindset, is to own our feelings, own our state of being, own how we show up, own what we contribute, how much we contribute, how we contribute. It's just all us, right? How are we being the best human being that we could be? because the more that we improve ourselves and the better that we show up ourselves, the more, I should say, that we own ourselves, because we're awesome. We don't have to really improve, right? The more that we actually connect to our higher self, and the more that we are the better partner that we become at the end of the day. So it has nothing to do with our partner.
Mhm.
That's the mindset shift. And that's what people really miss. They miss the boat on this. It's like they're all expecting the partner to do something different. They're expecting the partner to change. Everybody's going like this, right? If you change, then I'll change. Blah, blah. We're going to be here forever waiting for you. I'm waiting for you to change. You're waiting for me to change. We're going to be here forever. So if I change me, and by change, I mean not change the core me or who I am. That's not what I mean. I mean, change how I show up. That honors me more, and I become more of me. Ta-da! That's when the magic happens. And the more that we connect to our higher self, and the more that we own all these different pieces, and by owning, we also set better boundaries around the way that we think, the way that we operate, the way that we set up things, what we allow, what we don't allow, what's acceptable, not acceptable. All of those things make a huge difference. If this piece is done well, the rest of the 5 elements flow like this, right? So, I mean, this is the biggest part. So sometimes we're here for a while. Because people have resistance. It's like, what? What do you mean? Have a higher self? So we have to start with the very beginning sometimes with some people.
Right. All that resistance that you get initially to that very concept that you have the power. There's a choice that you're making here. As you're saying, most people have no idea they're making a choice.
That's right. That's right. So we have to start with where somebody's at, right? So if I'm coming into a relationship, me as a person, not another therapist, but I'm in my relationship, and I think, okay, so what is not working for me? I gotta say, okay, so what am I not doing? How am I not loving myself enough? How, I expect to have connection, and we'll go more into this when we do the connection piece. I expect to have connection with you, but I'm not connecting to myself. So then how I can possibly experience connection, right? So always, what am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing? How can I do it better? How can I do it better? How can I do it better? How can I honor myself more? How can I be me more? Does that piece make sense for the mindset?
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I was just thinking, so many couples that I've worked with during my 50 years of doing this kind of thing, awesome. Where that kind of thing has come up, where the person really will be complaining about the partner and focused on this and that, and there's a certain place where you begin to realize, my gosh, they're spending a huge amount of their life watching for their partner's errors.
Right.
And often that's a signal for me to ask, how are you taking care of yourself? And encouraging them to really pay attention to that. And as they begin doing things for themselves and enjoying themselves, whether it's physically, emotionally, mentally, being with friends, allowing that kind of thing, suddenly, oh my gosh, my partner's improved so much.
I love it. Absolutely. Right? Absolutely. So how are you taking care of yourself? The self-care piece is massive. Right? The self-regulation, the emotions, the owning ourselves, right? All that piece where if I make myself happy, I could be happy. And then your errors are not so they're not the end of the world, whatever mistakes you might make, because I'm okay.
Right.
What a concept.
Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And also appreciation and gratitude. That's part of this whole mindset thing.
Oh, wow.
Right? Because I start all my sessions with an appreciation. Partners start with, like, what I appreciate about you since the last time we were here, blah, 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 blah.
Uh-huh.
Right? And because we build that cushion of positivity, we're so used to looking for things that don't work. We look for errors, we look for mistakes. How you failed me today? How did you fail me today? What didn't you do today? What didn't you do today? People have a list. Yep. As opposed to, oh, I love that you did all of these things today. Right?
Big difference. Yeah. I'd like you to speak a little bit more to that, because that's a wonderful tip for all couples. I mean, for all of us, a good reminder about possibly practices a person might do along the lines of appreciation.
Oh, awesome. Absolutely. Lovely. So I have a few things that I have couples do and partners do. So one is called the appreciation dialogue. And I borrowed this from Halvor Hendricks, where couples get to share with each other things that they appreciate about the other. Then the other partner repeats it back. So they show the partner that they hear the appreciation. Because a lot of times we even hear criticism in the appreciations. It's really funny with the stuff that we do.
Right. Right.
Somebody's saying somebody a compliment and they don't hear it.
Looking for that one word, although it's an interesting thing there, and the nuances of that is that sometimes the giver of the appreciation is literally putting in an element of criticism. And
Absolutely. That's a backhanded compliment.
so I know that you work with individuals on that, about picking that up. Did you hear how your voice changed when you said that, and how her face changed suddenly from glow to dropping?
Yep, absolutely. So sometimes we dig when we're complimenting and appreciating. So couples say things like, "Oh, and finally you got me flowers." That's not a compliment, that's not an appreciation. So definitely. So I teach them how to do genuine appreciations, right? They can't be all dirty. And then receiving them, because sometimes people, even though the partner's being really nice and genuine, the other partner still can't receive it. So working on sending proper and receiving properly. But yeah, so that's one way, just to actually share the appreciations.
Say that a little bit more, because that's something that isn't focused on that much, and about the receiving, and that's a very important element.
Terrific. Yes. So I have so many clients who the partners giving appreciations and they're saying things that they like about them, and they still look for the negative. Like, is there a dig in there? You're saying that because of this. You don't really mean it. There's all kinds of things that people do with that they can't take it in. And the reason why people can't take it in is because there is this, and I'm going to say this carefully, there is an impacted sense of self. I don't want to call it low self-esteem and some other things, because people have reactions to that and resistance, right? Like, I have a good sense of self-esteem. So I say impacted because we all have, there is a spectrum. And so the way that we are brought up, if there's any element of less than perfect parenting, right? So there is less than perfect parenting in every single household. Absolutely. Therefore, we're all impacted, right? So some of us are impacted a little bit, some of us are impacted a whole bunch, depending on what kind of upbringing we had. And therefore, our sense of self is a little sensitive in some areas. And that does not allow us to receive well, because we have a sense of shame. We have a sense of not being worthy, not deserving, and a bunch of other things that are associated with self-esteem and sense of self. And that wiring in the brain around that impedes us from receiving not just compliments and appreciation, but even help, support, gifts, all kinds of things, right? So we can't receive because at some level, we're not feeling deserving or worthy. And there is a programming of shame going through our system, and that also impacts that. That's all. I mean, it's potentially beyond this conversation, but so there's an element of all different things happening from the way that we were parented that holds us back from being able to receive yumminess in our partnership. And the key is having that impacted sense of self.
Right. Very well stated, Emma. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah. So did you want me to say more about that, more specific?
Well, you were giving some suggestions along the lines of that particular appreciation and that kind of thing. And I thought I may have interrupted you with a question, and then I think my audience may be waiting to hear a couple
more about that. Absolutely. So one is telling the partner the things that we appreciate. So I teach couples how to create an appreciation or gratitude lifestyle. So for example, I give them the homework of once a week or 3 times a week or whatever makes sense for you guys. You come up with a frequency that makes sense. After dinner, or in the morning, or this or that, whatever. Some period where you establish this is when we do appreciations, and you use a couple of minutes to just kind of share with each other. Since last Wednesday, I appreciated blah blah blah, or I like that you did this thing, so thank you so much for these things, or this thing's touched me because, right? And so they get to share, they build that into the routine where they have appreciation talks or dialogues. So that's one way to do that, and that's very interactional. The other way to build a gratitude and kind of practice is to do meditations in mindfulness meditations around gratitude are very, very lovely, and I encourage all your listeners to go to YouTube and to do a search for guided mindfulness meditation on gratitude. in abundance and things like that. Ah, lovely. Because
Wonderful.
the brain gets soothed. Meditation is always a plus in anything. But then around this particular topic, building a meditation in gratitude practice into our routine is just so amazing. It changes everything. Like the focus and what we see and what we experience and the energy is so uplifted, and we invite more of that into our lives. We actually get more blessings when we have a gratitude appreciation kind of
Right.
lifestyle. And some other practices are journaling, just at night or whenever it makes sense for people to just journal all the things that they appreciate that happened that day, just everything that they love. And if nothing good happened to them, I appreciate that my house is this color. I appreciate that I have clothes on my back. I appreciate that I ate a sandwich today. I appreciate that I have a bed to sleep on, or that I have a cardboard box to sleep on, right? There's always something to appreciate. But just focusing on what we do have and just writing it out. And so that's another practice that people could do just to build that peace.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I mean, just if you're short on something, you can always go to, I appreciate that I just got another breath, or I appreciate that my heart beat one more time.
That's right.
I mean, it's all around us.
Right.
And they're all magical.
That's right. Yeah. Yep. So that's just the beauty of how to change the mindset, how to change the way that we show up, how to show up with better energy, right? So all these activities make us vibrate in a lot higher energy, and that just puts us in a very different wavelength of operating, more heart center, more loving, more higher power, more connected to source, and all these different things create just a much better place to create a relationship in a family from than operating from a low vibration, blah, blah, blah kind of energy. Right. Very clinical looking, I know.
Yeah, boring. Yeah, so I'd like to be sure that you have an opportunity at least that for you, I think it was element number 4 about intimacy. Could you focus some, and I'm thinking particularly in terms of sexual and romantic intimacy. What do you see come up, and what kind of suggestions do you have around that for our audience?
Yes, very good. So what I see very frequently is because couples are coming in with such a dirty way of looking at things, and that's what we do, the context first, and the mindset first, is that stuff gets so much in the way. If I look at my partner as the enemy, how can I possibly be intimate and be sexual with the enemy? Right? And so that's something that's very common. They're fighting about everything. They're not getting along. They're not being able to fix things and work on things together. So how can they possibly maintain connection, intimacy, and sexuality? It's just not possible. So that's one piece that happens. The other piece that happens is potentially the opposite, that people become too close. And they become, and this might sound weird to people, so just bear with me for a second. So either too close or too domestic, and that takes the spark out of things, right? So too close, if I know everything, your every move, where's the mystery? Where's my partner, right? If we're always together, I don't miss you. If you're always up my butt or always in my space, then I don't get to be like, oh, I want to hang out with him, or with her or with them. So too much togetherness is also not good. And the domesticity of things takes the danger or the spark or the I'm looking the words for it, the
surprise, possibly.
Right, yeah, like all those elements of what creates energy that's there when you first meet somebody, right? And it's hard to sustain that when you're married for a long period of time or in a relationship for a long period of time. You do know the person, so how do you take that away, right? Or you have to live together, or you have to be together a lot of the time, or you are taking care of young children or your older children, taking care of life. So all those pieces erode romance, erode passion, and so potentially you're getting along, but you're still missing that stuff because of just the way that life is set up and in a relationship is set up.
Right.
So the way to deal with that is to create a little separateness. Now, this might sound weird and the opposite of what some people might think that they want, because most people want to be together more, right? But there is separateness and there's separateness. So I'm not saying parallel lives. I'm not saying do your own thing and be an independent, completely independent free agent. I'm saying with respect to the relationship, create a space where you get to be your individual self and you bring you to the relationship, and you're not so enmeshed that there's no individuality and then there's nothing there. How do you explore? How do you miss? How do you engage? Right? It's already there. There's nothing to go look for, nothing to attract. That's part of the fun of the romance, part of the passion. And so creating a little bit of separateness without doing funny business, right?
Mm-hmm.
So more individual interests, more separate time. After the connection is built and after the safety is put in place, then you create a little bit of separateness. And that's where the passion gets enriched and enhanced. Some people go for this before they have this and it doesn't work.
Right.
So the togetherness is safety first, and then disengage a little bit in a proper way, so that then you create the higher passion. You know each other, but you can still have that element of mystery.
Yeah, very good. And I wish that piece would be included in every premarital counseling session, to be aware that we go through these different stages. And of course, at the beginning, I mean, our whole biology is about together and safety and seeing sameness and all of that. But there's a certain place where that begins, as you're saying, be just too much and becomes a little bit too predictable and all of that. Exactly. And the brain lights up with novelty. So in some ways, to not do the thing that most people do, which is they end up giving up, going out with the friends that they enjoy. And I'm not talking about keeping the single life going. I'm talking about your friends, giving yourself time to have completely yourself away from your partner, and for both of you. And then to bring that charge back to the relationship.
That's right, exactly.
It's magic, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it sounds a little counterintuitive when people are struggling to feel connected, to tell them to create a little bit of space, right? But so right. I want to really emphasize that first they need to build a security and a safety in that connection, and then to play with it, creating a little bit of separateness.
Right. And then if you can, instead of going to a place of jealousy because your wife or your husband is doing things you don't quite know exactly what they're doing, you're not over their shoulder, go to a place of maybe curiosity or excitement, or I don't know, there's a place, something here to learn about in a positive way.
Yeah, exactly. Then you have something different to talk about. Something, you bring different energy to the equation, and the partner who did the thing that's outside to bring that spark in, right? And let me tell you what happened, and like, this awesome thing, and that's where the fun is.
Yeah, you know? Exactly. Yeah. Oh gosh, I'm noticing the time, and I had a hunch it would fly, and it has. So we are going to need to wrap up shortly. And before we do, I want to make sure to have an opportunity for you to be able to share with everyone what the gift is that you are offering.
Yes. Okay. So the gift is a 3-part mini course. And it focuses on the elements that we kind of delved into a little bit more, which is the mindset, the communication, and the intimacy. So people get to actually play with a little deeper with the concepts that we actually delved into a little bit ourselves. But there is an exercise involved in there. So not only do they get to learn a little bit more, but they also get to work through what might be holding them back, what they need to put in place, so that they get to actually work through something and get to a better place from wherever they are.
Wonderful. That's a lovely gift. Yeah. And folks, be sure to sign up for that, because that sounds extremely valuable. I have to tell you, with all my relationship work, I know that when I click on that and get that, I'm going to learn some things, or be reminded of some very important things that I need to bring back into my relationship. And so, excuse me, thank you so much, Emma, for that gift. And folks, all you need to do, you'll see a link, and all you need to do is to click on that link, and it will say give you access, and it will give you access to that wonderful gift that Emma is offering. And so I want to thank everyone for being a part of the show and being with us today. And I want to thank you, Emma, for what you have offered. It's been delightful.
Thank you so much for having
You
me.
are delightful. And I appreciate very much the work that you're doing out there. It's from my heart. I really appreciate that. And um, in closing, I just want to say to everyone, besides thank you for joining us today, I'd like you to be very aware that your particular kind of love and your particular light is something we really need on the planet. We need it to be whole. We can't be whole without you. So just find your kindness and speak your truth. That's all we need. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the future. Bye-bye.